I'm glad to be on Facebook because I neglect Facebook. I'm always on Twitter. Hey, Natsu, thank you. I love y'all too. I love all my people. Hopefully, I'll be on Facebook more often. It's kind of hard trying to get to all of the different social media sites. We have a guest that should be coming in soon. Y'all have to excuse me for looking so relaxed. I just got to the hotel because tomorrow I have a busy, busy day. I have a radio interview. I have a special appearance I'm going to be making. So a lot is happening with the campaign. That's why I'm having to take some time off from work and do interviews because things are getting so busy now. There's no way I can go to work and be able to do everything that I need to do. I hope I win too, Keisha, for real, because the person against whom I'm running, it seems like no matter what, they are doubling down on not doing anything specifically for Black Americans to address our specific issues, our specific causes. I have a special guest coming on area from the Charleston area, but from the surrounding Low Country, because we get the program too. So she should be joining any minute now. So y'all sit tight, and y'all can tell me some things about y'all. Like I see Andre's from South Florida. I guess I see Natsu is Minnesota and Texas. Okay. One is generally hot, one's generally cold, and yet both can have both. So hope we have a good interview this evening. Some people probably aren't going to log back in because they logged back in when I first came on, and I was just really experimenting. I should have been on private, but I wasn't thinking about that because I just got from work, dropped off some flyers for a town hall we're having. 2 town halls, one in Ridgeland on Friday, one in Walterboro on Saturday. So I went by a restaurant in Walterboro because they're helping me get the word out about the flyer and the campaign. And I suck at this. I mean, it's a good thing I'm not a DJ because having enthusiasm all the time for several hours straight, even though you're technically by yourself in a studio, is definitely a talent. So hopefully the DJ will be here soon, or the media figure, so we can really get the fun started. I got a lot of comments I don't read on Facebook. I need to get that off this. Oh, Morocco. Oh, I'm internationally known now. I've never been to Morocco before. So is that where you're from, Natsu? That's really cool. I've been to the African continent before. I've been to the African continent like 6 times, but never been to Morocco. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
You got 34 days. How you feeling?
I'm feeling excited. And you know what? I'm also feeling like whatever the outcome may be, I'm proud of what people have helped me accomplish. And I'm ready for June 14th to get here. So I can see I mean, I'm going to keep going. I just need to see which direction I need to go. Plan A or plan B?
Absolutely. Well, let me introduce myself. First of all, it's nice to meet you. Super excited to hear about your platform and everything. And to all your followers and my followers hopping on, I am Kris Kaylin. You can catch me on Z93 Jams each and every weekend, Saturday 10 to 3, Sunday 11 to 3. And I do my entertainment report every day on WIN and KISS 95.5 in Myrtle Beach. So super excited to be here to talk about your platform. You've been taking social media over by storm. So let's dive into it. So, like I said, you're running for the 6th district as the 6th district congressional candidate, and that is some big shoes to fill. But you are very confident with your platform and what you have going on. So let's just dive right into it. Your platform is reparations. And
Yes.
like I said, when you were taking social media by storm, the reason why it jumped out to me so much is because we're in South Carolina. And it's just kind of like, you know how they feel about it. So just dive into it. Let me know, why did you choose such I don't want to say a shocker, because do I feel like we deserve reparations? Absolutely. Something so controversial, I guess, even though it shouldn't be, but it is.
Right. It's people said that my platform is radical, but we're in a country where when it was time to abolish slavery, that was considered radical. When the Jim Crow legislation, which by the way, South Carolina has a special standing in all of that. South Carolina had the most slave-holding families than any other state in the United States of America. When it comes to Jim Crow and redlining laws, black codes was what they were called first. South Carolina was the first state to enact black codes to make sure that black Americans were disenfranchised. But there's another thing special about South Carolina. After the end of the Civil War, when General Sherman and slavery ended, they met in Savannah, Georgia, which is where I'm from, Jasper County, South Carolina, like an hour from here,
Yeah.
right by the border with Savannah. They met in Savannah, Georgia, but the 40 acres in the Mule, most of that land was going to come from abandoned rice plantations that were mainly in South Carolina. Yes, some in Georgia, some in northern Florida, but were mainly in South Carolina. So reparations has a special history here in South Carolina and in the Low Country, and among us, the Gullah Geechee people, because we were the first group of Black Americans, descendants of American slaves, to get reparations. Now, the reason why I decided to run is because I'm a teacher, and I was seeing my students, even students who did all the things they were supposed to do, they may refrain from having a family young, go to college, get scholarships. I was seeing them still languishing in poverty, the same poverty in which their parents struggled, with whom I went to school with, the same poverty in which their grandparents struggled and their great-grandparents. I was not seeing any progress happening for us as a people, no matter how dynamic we were being, and we have always been. Second of all, then I looked at our data for our district, South Carolina's 6th congressional district, which briefly I'm going to name the counties: Charleston, Dorchester, Orangeburg, Sumter, Williamsburg, Bangburg, Allendale, Hampton, Clarendon, Dorchester, Colleton. I always forget at least one: Allendale, Bamberg, and Jasper. So I found out that our district is the 6th poorest district in the United States of America. And there are 435 districts in the United States of America. We are the 6th poorest. For children, we are the 3rd poorest. And keep in mind, our district is a majority Black district. So most of the people living in the deepest poverty look like you and I. And we, being Gullah Geechee people, and I'm just going to assume you are too, our people are the ones who grew the rice. It wasn't cotton that made the United States of America so rich and powerful. It was rice that was the first source of significant wealth for the 13 British colonies that will later on become the United States of America. So to see that we have had the same congressman, James Clyburn, for 13 years, and the best he can give us is that we are the 6th poorest out of 435 districts, I said we deserve better than what we've been getting. And that's why I'm running, to get us that better that we deserve.
Absolutely. So I'm having a little feedback. I'm going to exit out and I'm going to come back. Is that okay?
Okay. Yes, that's fine. Well, you know, we're in Clyburn district, so. Hey, y'all, if y'all on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, people still use Snapchat, I guess. Fan base, if y'all could let them know I'm here on Facebook Live. I know we've kind of abandoned Facebook. Let me see if I can bring some of us back to it.
All right, we're back. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Were you able to catch everything I said the last time?
Yes, I was able to catch everything. It was a slight delay, but I didn't know if it was just on my end, on everyone's end, and I want everyone to be able to hear everything you're saying because it is awesome. So I just want to double check. So we're good. We can keep it rolling.
Okay. So that was my thing. I'm like, after 30 years in power, the best you've been able to do for us is have us as the sixth poorest district in the United States of America out of 435. But that is not just it right there. The other thing, too, is that Clyburn's legislative record, you know some of the issues we face here as Black Americans in this area. One, land theft. For Gullah Geechee people, we have to wake up every day and drive past these golf courses, these tennis courts, these hotels, these beachfront resorts, and know that our families used to own those $1 million properties that was stolen from us via heirs property, where they will buy out the share of one family member, sometimes by force, and then force all other family members off the property. That's how Held Island, Boosie, like you're saying, went from being 90% Black to 90% white. We have to wake up and see these people living on land that was once ours that we could not afford. So that right there is one thing. We've lost hundreds of thousands of beachfront, riverfront property that had we been able to keep, had this country paid us from the wages that our ancestors had done, and we inherited that wealth that we should have had, we would have been able to keep our land. But through heirs property partition sales, through tax default sales, we have lost our land or had it stolen. I was looking through James Clyburn's record. You will not find one piece of legislation he's done for Black Americans to get land. But he has actually done land legislation for other groups. There's a group of Native Americans here in South Carolina called the Catawba Native Americans. Most of them are in North Carolina. A few live in South Carolina. They live right at Rock Hill, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina area. They were former enslavers in our area, and they were brutal. They were not just brutal enslavers, they were brutal slave catchers. So brutal that sometimes our people would just turn themselves in to the white enslavers because they were outnumbered and outgunned, and they did not want to deal with the brutality from the Catawba Native Americans. In 1993, when James Clyburn, when James Clyburn first took office, the first thing he did was he sponsored a bill to give a certain group of people who have gone through a legacy of racism, discrimination, and violence to give them special protection, privileges, recognition, and rights. You may be thinking I'm talking about us, Black Americans. No, those people in 1993 were these Catawba Native Americans. James Clyburn is a history teacher. He was a history teacher. So he knows their history of enslaving us and how they've abused us. And yet the first thing he did when he got in office was put them first. Now that was 1993. But when you know better, you do better. So I thought. So now let's fast forward to 2021, last year. He writes a bill to give a certain group of people 20 acres of property. Now, I would think it would be the Gullah Geechee people, being that we're the ones that kept this island afloat, being that we're the ones whose land has been stolen. That happens to all Black Americans who are descendants of American slaves, but especially the Gullah Geechee, and being that he's a South Carolinian and his wife was Gullah Geechee. No, he gives 20 acres of property to those same Catawba Native Americans, so that they can build a multi-million-dollar casino from which they will get billions of dollars. Some Native American tribes get so much revenue from their casinos that every single member of the tribe, not just their family, but of the tribe, gets $1 million to put in their pockets. That's the wealth that we should have and then some. But they got that because people stood up for them and wrote legislation for them on their behalf. Where's the legislation that Clyburn has written on our behalf to do something about the land that we've experienced? Let's look
And
at schools. Clyburn, unfortunately, has the corridor of shame. The majority of it goes through his district, which refers to, areas like Allendale County, my home county, Jasper County, Marlborough County, which is not in Clyburn's district. A lot of these very impoverished, majority black rural districts that are off the Interstate 95, where the poverty is extremely high. The school buildings are absolutely, completely decrepit. And unfortunately, the academic failure is perennial. It seems like no matter how long they've been around, the academic failure has been there as well. And South Carolina, over nearly 90% of black boys cannot read and do math on grade level. Now, it's not because our black boys are stupid. Far from it. Actually, to survive in a country that has always been wanting to kill you and disenfranchise you, you have to be of the most high intellect. But because they have so many other issues, they're worried about how they're going to eat, where they're going to sleep. The last thing on your mind is usually what you're going to learn in school. Not just that, though. The blacker a school, the more likely they are to have the least experienced teachers, the less likely their teachers are to stay in that school, the more likely they are to have the least amount of fun. Matter of fact, one study says that over 50% of majority black schools offer less than 50% of the courses required for a child to be college and career ready by the time they graduate. Now, that's one thing, but think about this. It's not just about the courses you take. What about the connections you make? I live in Ridgeland. 15, 20 minutes from us is Bluffton. In Bluffton, South Carolina, they have kids taking courses that pretty much engineering courses, top notch, courses that could almost be considered pre-med in some senses. Not only are they getting those courses, but they're also getting those connections. So when those kids graduate from college, who do you think is going to have the most impressive resume with all the courses and all the connections? A kid from a majority black rural county like Jasper County, or a kid from a gentrified now majority white county? Wasn't always that way, like Beaufort County. We already know the answer. Where is the legislation Clyburn has written to make sure that no matter where you live, your schools get equitable amount of funding? There should be one standard where every school gets this much amount of money. And if a county cannot reach it because schools are funded by their tax revenue, property tax revenue, then the federal government should come in and close the gap. That way, no kid, whether you are in Allendale County or whether you are in Charleston County, you will have the same opportunity and same resources to get a high quality education. Where's the legislation Clyburn's written on that? He might be watching this Facebook Live. If you are Clyburn, go ahead and do it, and you might win this election. So those are just examples of things he could have done for the past 30 years, but he has sat back and watched our schools fall into disrepair, watch us get gentrified out of our formerly majority black neighborhoods, like many neighborhoods in Charleston, like Beaufort, like Hilton Head Island, happening even in parts of Hardyville. And he sat there and watched us be dealt a bad hand. Meanwhile, he's writing legislation to give land and billions of dollars to Native Americans that used to enslave us.
That's crazy, but that does roll into my next question. So what you were speaking on, sometimes it's just a lot of, like you said, it's a lot of symbolism and they do things, but where's the actual policy? So how do you plan to enforce policy?
Well, there's an easy answer to that. You got to write it. That's the thing. So people have said, and my reparations platform is, in short, this. Is returning the Freedmen's Bureau. The Freedmen's Bureau was a department of the government that was specifically existing to make sure that Black Americans who are descendants of American slaves or free people of color, because the two groups overlap, to make sure that we were well fed, we were well housed, we had land, We had good jobs, we had fair wages, we had health care, and we were protected from the anti-Black bigots that were rampant after the end of the Civil War. Had they been allowed to do their job, we would probably already have had reparations. Our ancestors would have been paid the over trillions of dollars they are owed that we would have been able to inherit. And our lives would not be the harsh economic existence that they are now for most of us. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring back the Freedmen's Bureau. But this time, there's going to be an independent agency. The government is going to finance it, but they're going to be independent of the government. The government is being an advisory role, and it's going to be staffed by freedmen. Freedmen is just the legislative term for those of us who are descendants of American slaves, the people who built this nation. On the Book of Congress, from the Freedmen Bureau Acts of 1 and Act 2 of 1855 and 1866, our legislative name is Freeman. Second thing are direct monetary payments. And before any defeatist gets in the comments and say that's never going to happen, shut up. You sound like a defeatist. People told our ancestors they were never going to be free. And look at us. We're free. Are things all great now? Of course not. But we are not in chattel slavery. People told Martin Luther King Jr., and we have a civil rights heroine in our area, Septima Poinsettia Clark. People told her, the Jim Crow and redlining are never going to be illegal. Now, even though we know the legacy is still strong, they are illegal. So when people tell me that reparations not going to happen, that is tantamount to pulling down your pants and pissing on our ancestors' graves, who were told that certain things never going to happen, and they said, "Watch me," and it did happen. Reparations will happen. It's already been done in the United States of America. It just has not been done for us. They've done it for several Native Americans. How do you think they get their tax exempt status? Some of them get free tuition. Some of them have free land, reservations. Even though I know that's not perfect, that's their land, can't be taken. They have their own form of government. Some of them get direct monetary payment from the government. When the Japanese Americans were put into internment camps in World War II for a few years, they were paid reparations, direct payment in 1988. Black Americans who built this nation, who suffered for this nation, fought to protect this nation every war before it was the USA, while it was the USA, and now currently as the USA, whose inventions have literally innovated and helped the world move forward. And we are still lacking and still to the bottom in terms of wealth, land ownership, and home ownership. This country owes us that much more. So direct monetary payment. And the third aspect of it is land. We're Gullah Geechee. We have a special connection to land. Our culture is land-based. But the truth of the matter is land theft is not just a Gullah Geechee thing. Mississippi was actually the state where Black Americans had the most land stolen from them. The truth of the matter is most lynchings happen not because of some white lady talking about some black man touch like we want them. No. Most lynch mobs happen because they wanted to steal our land. And 15 million acres of land has been stolen from Black Americans between 1910 to 1997, and we're still losing the 1 million acre of land that we still own. How is it in a country we built? We own almost none of it. So my Freedmen's Bureau is going to incentivize a return to our ancestral land, which for Black Americans, most of us have roots in the South, South Carolina being one of the top states, and also a return to Black farming. So those are the main things there. I also want to say, when I say a Freedmen's Bureau, that means Freedmen Hospitals, that means Freedmen Banks, that means Freedmen Schools, because we will have that protected class status where things will be specifically for us. So
and
I'm going to put that legislation to make that happen.
Absolutely. And when you speak on things like this, and when we started off the conversation, when you said your platform of reparations, someone said radical. But and just the place that we're in America is just kind of like, how can us asking for what we're owed be radical, but you have something that happened on January 6th and you barely hear anything. You had people who are working on the inside and you barely hear anything about it. And that sometimes it just makes me go, like everything you're saying, nothing made me want to clutch my pearls. I mean, of course, as a Black person, I feel like we deserve reparations, but it's just kind of like, you see the divisiveness in America. Right. And I'm glad you're just really highlighting those things and making that your platform. I feel like so many people want to hide behind being politically correct. instead of, and saying, well, I'll do this when I get in office versus just being honest. So I really will say, and I think everyone on this live, just appreciate your honesty and your passion and just everything behind what you're doing, because you're very knowledgeable. And it's just like, to everyone on this live, I feel like I'm learning a lot just from the legislation that wasn't passed, things that were passed that I just, didn't know. So I do appreciate you for educating me.
Well, I want to say, we have to stop worrying about being politically correct and worry more about doing what is correct. And that's what we failed to do. Had this country done, and I don't have my t-shirt, I'm just getting in the hotel, but my slogan for my platform is Repair Black America to Fix America. Because apparently America is too stupid to realize that what they've been trying to do ain't working. They've been trying to make America great while trying to still hate and oppress and terrorize Black America. And that's why, in spite of how wealthy of a nation we are, we have problems here, from violence to drug abuse to poverty, that you find in developing nations still. The two things should not go together. Until we all rise, we all have fallen. And I want to say something too. I'm going to start in South Carolina, because obviously I'm going to be representing South Carolina District 6. But my campaign is really to save America. Repairing Black America to save America is what I should say. Because let me tell you something right here. A study by City Financial, and City Financial is one of the world's largest financial service providers. City Banks, which is under City Financial, they're considered the bulge banks, meaning that they are so large. They're one of the banks that people say is so large that if they were to collapse, the global economy will be in crisis. They did a study last year, 2 years ago, saying that America had lost $16 trillion because of anti-Black racism. Now, America is only worth its GDP, meaning the total value of our services and products, is only worth $19.2 trillion. And so we would have been twice as rich had this nation paid reparations to Black Americans in 2000. Now imagine how much more trillions or quadrillions we have lost if we go back to the 1600s. So the longer we don't pay Black Americans reparations, the poor and more divided of a nation we become. And when people want to talk about divisiveness, I find that quite funny. This is the nation that, first of all, we can leave chattel slavery out of it. Let's just start with 1860, where chattel slavery was still happening. They signed an act called the Homestead Act. The Homestead Act gave away hundreds of millions of land to mainly white Americans to move out west. They had to sell it for 5 years, pay a $20 registration fee, and the land was theirs. 48 to 60 million white American families can trace their ancestry, their wealth, to the Homestead Act. Black Americans got zilch, zero, nada of that. Then, in order, after slavery was over, they did the Southern Homestead Act. That was supposed to be for Black Americans. We were left out of it again. This time, just by means of lynch mob violence, but also by the fact that we were coming out of slavery without a penny of the trillions we have raised and generated for this nation. We were unprotected, and a lot of us were illiterate. So the few Black Americans that did get land often found themselves scammed out of money and of their land. So most of that went to white Americans as well. Then we have the GI Bill that people still use if anyone's the son of a veteran. My great-grandfather was a World War II veteran. He helped to stop the Nazis. And yet, when he got back here, they did the Readjustment Act, or the GI Bill, which gave trillions and trillions of dollars to veterans to go to college, to buy a home, to open a business, to get a pension, to get health care. Unfortunately, they left it up to the states because they allowed us, technically, the federal government was not supposed to surrogate anymore, but they knew the states were. So instead of them federalizing the program, they abdicated it to the states that still had Jim Crow, and as a result, the majority of Black veterans, like my great-grandfather, who is still very much alive and still vividly remembers the bitterness and the pain of seeing the white veterans alongside whom he fought, being able to get homes and businesses and pensions and investments and transfer that to their children. Whereas when his daughter was born, my grandmother, he had nothing to give her but poverty and the struggle. So when people talk about handouts, because when you say divisiveness, they usually think, well, reparations is a handout. Reparations is not a handout. It is a debt that the federal government owes. No white person is going to pay any black person nothing. It comes from the federal government. And it's not a handout, it's a debt. What I do say to people, though, if you want to look at people who have gotten a handout, they don't look like me. Hint, 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 okay? The people who have gotten land and Social Security Act from the government, while we will be left out of it, don't look like you and I. I want to say, if people also want to talk about divisiveness, people are actually okay with division when it hurts us. They were okay with divisiveness when they were keeping our communities redlined and draining us of the little bit of resources we had and not giving us loans so we can build neighborhoods, not reparations, just loans. They were redlining our properties. The white neighborhoods getting all the tax investments, we were getting nothing. That was divisive, but that was then. Let's talk about what's going on now. Let's talk about the fact that a black woman gets pregnant and goes to a hospital. She is five times more likely to die giving birth to a child than a white woman, even if she's a wealthy, well-educated black woman going to a very resource-endowed hospital. She is still 5 times more likely to die than even a poor white woman going to a resource-deprived hospital. That's division. Let's talk about the fact that the average American family, white, Asian, even Hispanic ethnicity, because they can be whatever race, has $122,000 in wealth. The average black American family, $24,000 only. That is a divide. Let's talk about the fact that the communities that are most likely to be near plants, toxic exhaust fumes, and most likely to deal with environmental racism, as they want to call it, are far more likely to be black neighborhoods. We can see it here in North Charleston, where they have those communities by the port, which they've always said has led to higher cancer rates, and they said that sometimes the soot is so black that some people don't have higher levels of asthma. That's a divide. Let's talk about the fact that black men's life expectancy has shortened in recent years. We have the shortest life expectancy, while others have not taken such a decline. That's a divide. So what I say to people, if you are truly concerned about closing divides in the American economy, then you need to be out here pushing for reparations, because not only will it make this country wealthier, it will also make this country more united.
Absolutely. So my next question, I have a couple more questions for you, and I promise I'll wrap it up. So what's your take on illegal immigration?
Oh, they need to be deported. I mean, not even sorry about that. Listen, here's the thing. I'm gonna go to the studies, but this is just common sense. Let's say I have 4 children, and I'm struggling to feed my 4 children. And all of a sudden I say, you know what? Let me go allow, and these other 10 kids come in. I allow them in because they say they're hungry. I let them take the food for my 4 children. Now my 4 children are starving. That's exactly what we do in legal immigration. We say they come here because they want opportunities, and they're poor, and they're downtrodden. Excuse me, who has been more downtrodden and has been forced into deeper poverty than black Americans? Who built over 50 black Wall Streets only to see a lot of them burnt to the ground and destroyed, and all the wealth that we built from nothing go down with it? That was us. Ain't no breaks ever been given to us. I don't go into a grocery store because I'm hungry and steal groceries, and they catch me, and the officer says, you know what, you're hungry, and they say, hey, keep the groceries, go ahead. And everyone else is lying about the pay and looking mad as hell because they know it's unfair. Likewise, you can't come into this country illegally and then we reward you for breaking the law and then think that you need to become a citizen and you're going to be a good citizen when the way you entered this country was illegal. But now here's what the studies show. The facts are the facts. Even liberal institutions and conservative institutions, they all agree that black Americans are hurt the most by legal immigration as well and illegal immigration. One study shows a correlation rate where the higher the level of immigrants in a community, black wages have decreased as much as 80%. Mass incarceration among black American men goes up as much as 25 to 30%. Black unemployment goes up as much as 35 to 40%. Okay, now some studies don't have those extremes, but they all show that Black Americans are hurt the most. We can look at some recent examples. In Chicago, one mass bakery had 400 illegal immigrants working there. The Black people in the neighborhood finally called ICE. They were all deported. Guess who filled that bakery, those roles, and were getting paid good wages and were able to provide for their families? We were. Yes, same thing in Mississippi. A farm was employing illegal immigrants. ICE came, did a raid. Guess who was there the next day doing those jobs? We were. So this myth that they're doing jobs that we won't do, not only is that a myth, I find it offensive. Who used to work the farms? Who used to do the roofs, do the painting, work in plants? That was all things that our people did. If you came to Charleston or Richmond or Beaufort 10, 20 years ago, all you would see were Black people on the construction sites, Black people in the lawns, okay? So illegal immigration, outside of it being illegal, it hurts our community. Every other community knows how to put themselves first. This Hispanic caucus, which, by the way, when they say Hispanic, they can be Afro-Latino, but then we talk about the white-looking ones. Let's be very clear about that. They're trying to get citizenship for 11 to 20 million illegal immigrants. Look at what's happening in California when you got these Latino gangs who are trying to run Black Americans out of neighborhoods that were once majority Black. If we think that all of them are our friends, we're fooling ourselves. I work at a school where I have children whose parents are in the country illegally calling our Black American kids the N-word, making fried chicken jokes, calling them cotton pickers, calling them the white man's slaves. And yet, some of them don't even speak English that well, but they come here and they already know how to be anti-Black. Now, that infuriates me. You are only here because of the struggles we went through, okay? They get English language services from the Civil Rights Department. Which group of people fought and bled and literally died to get the Civil Rights Department in the federal government? That was us. And then they treat our children that way? So when they're trying to get these illegal immigrant citizenship, don't think they're thinking about our well-being. They're not, because we already saw that. We're in California, where they're not doing that thing like these Latino gangs that are literally terrorizing the few Black people that are left in those once majority Black neighborhoods in California. Second of all, Asian Americans, they went through 3 days of hate crimes, okay? And they got a hate crime bill right away. We've been going through hate crimes for 500 centuries. We have yet to get one, okay? So the point I'm making here, Kris, is that other groups, they think about themselves first. We got to start thinking about ourselves first. Illegal immigration hurts our community. So what I plan to do is not to go after illegal immigrants, but go after the people who employ them. And that's by making E-Verify mandatory. And if you catch employing an illegal, they're going to get deported. You're going to get the hell fined out of you, if not thrown in jail. We need to stop thinking that everyone's going to the Lord and wearing big church hats and loving out everybody and turning the other cheek. It's time for us to be self-interested like these other groups have shown us. They're more than glad to be self-interested.
And you spoke about, hate crime and the hate crime bill. And currently, the Clementa Pinckney hate crime bill is stalled in the Senate. And it's just odd. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the Clementa Pinckney bill is the one for South Carolina, right? South Carolina state level? Yeah.
Yes.
But this is South Carolina. This is the state that had, like I say again, the most slaveholding families than any other state in the United States of America. This is the state that passed over 40 laws in one day just because they were afraid that Black Americans were going to get some type of equity. This is the state that came up with the idea of black codes. No other place in the Americas was doing that yet. South Carolina coined the term black code, which then became things like Jim Crow and redlining and things of that nature. So nothing surprising, but you know what? Forget them. We got to do things on the federal level. I know a lot of people in Charleston are all up in arms about this critical race theory stuff. You know what? We have to do things on the federal level. let's look at the civil rights movement. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., just because he's the most recognized example, they went to the federal government. They went to Lyndon B. Johnson as president. First, they were with Kennedy, but after he got assassinated, they went to working with Lyndon B. Johnson. They did it on the federal level. And then what they did after that, they went and sued the states for rights. So we have to get hate crimes specifically for us. This anti-lynching thing that they were trying to make a big deal of like a month ago, that doesn't specify us. It just says lynching is a crime. We need something specifically for us, because guess who goes through the most hate crimes? We do. 56%, nearly 60% of all hate crimes are directed towards Black Americans, not Asians. And we don't have anything specific for us. So at the federal level, we need to have something specific for us, and that is what I am going to do. That's why I'm bringing back the Freedmen's Bill to give us that protected class status.
Absolutely. And I have one last question for you. So recently, I'm not sure if you heard in Charleston, there was an accident. A mother and her two daughters were killed in a car wreck on Savannah Highway. And the police officer, the sheriff, is currently on paid leave. So, yeah, it happened Sunday night, 11 Sunday night. So, do you have any thoughts on that? I was just shocked that she was on a paid leave
The
after
sheriff,
murdering 3 people.
the sheriff caused the accident, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I heard about that. You see, that's my other thing. So here's my thing with the police. There's so much to say about that, but I'm going to just keep it brief and focus on this. One, in the Constitution, and this goes with the use of force, but in the Constitution, there's a limit to police force. It says knowingly deprive someone of their pursuit of life and liberty and blah, 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 blah. We have to amend the Constitution. It has to change from knowingly to recklessly. Because the same way that if you and I caused an accident and unfortunately someone got really hurt really bad or died, we can get charged with reckless driving at the very minimum. The police officers need to be charged with reckless behavior. It's hard to prove that someone knew they were going to hurt someone or kill someone. But when you change the word to reckless in the Constitution, that right there shows that they should have known better. So with this case, I don't know the specifics, but if she caused that awful accident that took those people's lives, then that person, that sheriff, if under my plan to change it from knowingly to recklessly, that person would be held accountable.
Absolutely. Well, I truly enjoyed.
Real quick. I see 2 people, Erica Kane and some other person on there, ask me what's my plan, and I could have sworn you asked me that already.
I did, but if we can, in case, Erica, in case you just hopped on, we did touch on that in the beginning, and I know some people had questions. So the voting, the primary is in 34 days, but for those who are just hopping on, can we touch on your platform one more time?
Thank you. For those who just hopped on. The primary is June 14th. Okay, my plan is reparations, which includes direct monetary payment, returning the Freedmen's Bureau, and incentivizing the return of Black Americans to our historical Black neighborhoods and to Black farming. It also includes Freedmen's Bureau, means Freedmen's Bank, Freedmen's Hospitals, Freedmen's Schools, making us a protected class status. How I'm going to do it? I'm going to do what every congressman and congresswoman can do. I'm going to write the legislations to get it done, and I'm going to build coalition for people to support it. Now, I'm going to try to use the feather. The feather is when I go to them and I try to show them where it's going to help their constituents. Hopefully, they will see. If that doesn't work, then I bring out the hammer. The hammer is when I hop my tail on the plane and I go to their neighborhood and their constituents. I say, hey, this is what's going on with your neighborhood right now. This is what I'm trying to do to fix it. Your congressman, congresswoman is not helping me, then I put pressure on them. Okay? Education. I'm going to change the way that schools are funded. Right now, they're funded via property taxes. If you're in a poor county like mine, Jasper County, your property tax base is here. Wealthy county like Beaufort County is way up here. So the school in a richer area gets more resources, and the kid in the poor area gets less when they need the most. There should be a state standard for each state. All will be different for each school district to be able to meet a state standard where each kid can have a high quality education. I plan to write legislation where these counties would put forth what they can, but the federal government will then send the balance to those school boards so that they can meet that standard. I also plan to have schools have a influx, finance an influx of guidance counselors, psychologists. I also plan to drastically increase the pay of teachers, but not just teachers, cafeteria employees, bus drivers, paraprofessionals, janitors, coaches, because all of those people play a part. I also plan to set aside federal funding where we as Black Americans, descendants of American slaves, can start our own schools, have our own teachers, and have control over our own curriculum. I plan to merge, hopefully, the Department of Education with the Department of Social Services, because they should work together. Not social services like we think of now, where they want to take a Black family's kid from them and put us through the ringer and make us look bad. No, social services that will provide support for a family before their head is underwater, before they are beset with emotional, mental, and physical problems. Have a transportation plan. The same way we help people become first-time home buyers and people can get grants to do home repairs, we should have that for vehicles. I live in Jasper County, extremely rural. I can't tell you how many people have only really even been to Savannah, Georgia, because they don't have a car. There are so many of our people who literally live their life stuck in their little impoverished town, not looking down on their town, but they want to do more. When you don't have a vehicle, and by the way, Black Americans are the least likely to have a vehicle. An illegal immigrant comes to this country legally and gets a car before us. If that doesn't piss us off, I don't know what will. When you don't have a car, you can't get to a job. You can't get to a doctor's appointment. We know our district has food deserts. You know about places like Yamasee and Allen. You can drive for 10 miles or more and not even see a gas station. How are they going to get to a grocery store? How are they going to get to a parent-teacher conference? I have a plan to help first-time car buyers, help with car maintenance sales. And last but not least, I plan to make it to where we get the Freedmen's Bureau, and we also have our own judicial system, and we have the resources to police our own communities. Like when I was growing up in Ridgeland, we hardly ever called the police. Something went wrong, the older men, my older cousins, would take care of things, and everything was fine. My great-grandmothers and great-grand-aunts and female cousins, they made the rules. Older men enforced it, and kind of had the last word if things needed to be changed. It worked together. We don't have that anymore because we've been gentrified. We're scattered all over the place. Where are the Black communities? Well, I plan to incentivize to bring us back to our Black communities. Then I plan to give us back to our own Black police forces, our own Black judicial system. So that's my plan. If you want to see more of it, you go to marcelforcongress.com. The election is June 14th. My app is glittering. I don't know how many people are in here, but hopefully I hope people heard it, because when people hear my platform, I'm talking about older people too, who we would think is in Clyburn's pockets, they are usually sold. Older Black men are the only group I have a hard time with, like 50% of them. The other 50 are riding with me. Older Black women and younger Black people right away, younger white people right away, even white Republicans are on for it because they know I don't support illegal immigration, and they get with that. But the only thing that separates me from James Clyburn is he has more money. He has name recognition. That's not always a good thing. That brings me to my next point. He has a 30-year record of being in Congress, yet his district is still almost the poorest place to live. I just need to have more people know about me, and we're guaranteed to win this thing. And finally, someone is going to put us first. Not Ukraine, not Asians, not illegal immigrants, but put Black Americans first after 500 years almost of putting us last, if at all.
Absolutely. And how can people donate to your campaign? Because I know that is super, super, super important. How can people donate to your campaign?
It's very important. And I want to say, before I say that, real quick, in January 2022, I had like $6,000. And I was so proud of that. As of now, and most of this happened within the past month, I'm almost at $100,000 donations for a person who just woke up one day and say, I'm tired of my people being ran over. I'm going to do something about it.
That's awesome.
I am proud. So my message is catching on. That's what that shows. Last month, $42,000. This month so far, $40,000 raised. MarcelForCongress.com/donation. My platform is catching on, y'all. Win or lose, I want us to know that we have a right to demand more, and we sure as hell deserve more. So reparations, it was done for Native Americans, it was done for Japanese Americans, it was done for Holocaust survivors, it was done for women in Guatemala who were sterilized. It definitely needs to be done for Black Americans. Should have been done a long time ago, but watch us get it done now.
Absolutely. I truly enjoyed interviewing you. It was a blast.
Thank
I learned
you.
so much about you. I am really impressed with your platform and everything that you stand for. So you don't forget, it is 34 days until it's time
June
to cast
14th.
your vote, June 14th. Make sure you are connecting with Marcel on all social media platforms. Head to his website because I was looking at it while you were talking, Marcel for Congress. A lot of information on there in case you missed something or you want to reach out and ask. Once again, Marcel for Congress.
Oh, I give them my number too.
Oh,
843-940-8983. And I'm on Twitter, the most Marcel, the number 4, digit 4, Congress.
absolutely. I love it. And I can't wait to see what you do. I'm wishing you good luck on everything. And I'm super excited to see the turnout. And I'm just, like I said, I'm really proud of you and what you're standing for. And just like you said, regardless, we should not be afraid to ask for what
Demand more. Exactly.
Other
Other groups do it.
what we deserve. No more
Other
asking,
groups do it,
demanding.
but the difference is they ain't built this thing here. We did. So if any group has the right to be demanding, it's us, damn it.
Absolutely.
Y'all. Thank
Have
you.
a great night.
Yeah, you take care. You take care.